Good morning and good afternoon. Welcome to another episode of Before Coffee. It is week 39 of the year, the 39th Mucking Fonday of the year. We are going to cover some stuff that's happened over the weekend and some stuff that's happening today. So, welcome to Before Coffee, the father and daughter news podcast where we cover the comprehensive news of planet Earth. 10 to 15 minutes before we start, we look at those stories on the headlines and pick and choose which ones we want to talk about without any caffeine in our body. But we do have Dr. Pepper and Cream Soda, not sponsored. Let's go ahead and look at these headlines today on Before Coffee. Long forbidden French anti-riot force sent to Martinique as thousands defy bans on protests. And Met Police launch a race action plan to rebuild trust with the Black community.
And Mucking Fonday, we have news from the Quad Summit.
Coming out of the Netherlands, profiles in clean energy. A dad concerned about climate change shifts his company away from oil and gas.
More Mucking Fonday. We're talking about Sri Lanka's new president.
And culture news today. What is a stolpersteine and what's behind the Dutch controversy about them?
And it's National Great American Pot Pie Day. That's right, not just pot pie, not just American pot pie, but Great American Pot Pie. September 23rd, 2024. Before Coffee. Not eat it, just make one.
Make a pot pie. Well, do you have a pot pie maker? Don't you have to have a special pot pie maker to make pot pie?
Nah, you just make some crust and throw some stuff
Just
in.
throw them in a pot and then put in a pie, I guess.
Just it's like every other pie except with like meat and vegetables in it.
Well, just like every anti-riot force, France, which is famous for having a lot of protest, is sending this supposedly long forbidden anti-riot force into Martinique as they banned protests there. I don't know why you would ban protests, seems a bit fascist to me. This is on AP News by, I don't know, I guess it's by, everyone just knows what's happening, so there's nobody to report it. This is just news, okay? This is just a news update. France has sent a group of special anti-riot police that's been banned for 65 years to the French Caribbean island of Martinique, where protesters have gathered despite the government barring demonstrations in parts of the island. The force arrived this weekend after the local representative France's central government in its overseas territory said in a statement that protests were forbidden in the municipalities of Fort-de-France, Le Lamentin, Ducos, Le Robert until today, and the government also issued a curfew. Why are they doing this? The restrictions came after violent protests broke out on the island last week over the high cost of living, with gunfire injuring at least 6 police officers and 1 civilian. Police launched tear gas and government officials said several stores were also looted. Well, yeah, I mean, if there's a high cost of living, time to just steal stuff because I can't even afford to buy my necessities. So might as well just steal everything. This is what happens when you push people too far. They react violently. Officials said the bans were meant to put an end to the violence and damage committed at the gatherings, as well as to the numerous obstacles to daily life and freedom of movement that penalize the entire population, particularly at the weekends. But the measure was met by defiance by many on the island, with massive peaceful protests breaking out on Saturday night, the 21st of September. Videos from local media show crowds of thousands peacefully walking along highways overnight, banging on drums and waving flags. Just a little disruption, but nothing too dangerous. As protests wound on without violence, the force of French anti-riot police arrived on the island and were staying at a hotel in Fort-de-France on the 22nd of September. It was immediately clear how many were sent. So they were peacefully making a lot of noise and disrupting society, but they weren't violent until this elite riot police, known as the Companies for Republican Security, who were banned in the French territory following bloody riots in December 1959, so they've been gone for a while. The unit had been accused of using disproportionate force against protesters, ending in the deaths of a number of young demonstrators. The force is rarely deployed in French territories in the Caribbean, but was called on during riots and strikes in Guadeloupe in 2009. Martinique's leaders requested the forces amid recent protests and a historic shift for the island, one met with a sharp rejection by some in the territory. Beatrice Belay, a representative of the Socialist Party on the island, blasted the move, saying, "Martinique is not in a civil war, it's a social war." She called for an open and transparent dialogue between protesters and the government. "This measure only serves to aggravate tensions and distract attention from the legitimate demands of the people of Martinique," she wrote in a statement yesterday. I agree. Like I said, it looks like they were just being disruptive, which is sometimes happens, just like how a hurricane can disrupt your life. A peaceful protest can disrupt your life. That's kind of the point. And they decided to escalate it by putting in an elite force of anti-protest police to quail down the revolution, so to say. And that only made it worse because now actual violence and looting broke out in the city today because of that. So great job. Good again. Police don't ever solve anything when it comes to peace. They only cause aggravation, I think. Speaking of police,
fake protesters.
It's like, leave them alone. Just let them, get it out of their system. Let them be heard. And don't, start throwing tear gas at them so they can start basically giving them a reason to start looting and being violent because you start tear gassing them.
Right.
The Met Police, however, in London, have looked at launching a new action plan to help rebuild trust with the Black community. This is on The Independent by Helen William from 2 hours ago. The Metropolitan Police have launched the latest steps to try to rebuild trust with London's Black community, which has been let down over a number of years. Met Commissioner Sir Mark Rowley said, "There remains a long way to go, and there's a lot more work to do," but added that the race action plan is a step in the right direction. It includes a new stop and search charter designed with the help of Black communities aimed at setting how the procedure is carried out. Tensions over stop and search have included treatment of 2 Black athletes, Team Britain runner Bianca Williams and her partner, Portuguese sprinter Ricardo dos Santos. 2 Met constables were sacked in October 2023 after a disciplinary panel found their actions during a highly distressing stop and search amounted to gross misconduct. Trust in the force has also been damaged after a 15-year-old Black girl known as Child Q was strip searched while on her period at her school in Hackney in 2020. Huh? What? Why do you need a strip search of a 15-year-old girl? What is she hiding in her body that you need a strip search her for? An overhaul of the force's policy on intimate searches of children to increase the threshold and oversight, ensuring they only occur when necessary and proportionate. I don't think any child should be strip searched, ever. And that's just my opinion. The Met says it wants to better represent the communities it serves and is working to recruit and retain more diverse workforce. Yeah, turning them onto your side isn't going to improve relationships. All new recruits are being trained to understand the experience of Black Londoners and other communities across the capital, according to the Met. Disparities in the Met's misconduct system are also being tackled, while new workshops to improve promotion rates have helped to raise pass rates from Black officers from 68% to 75% since 2021. Updates on progress of the plan will be given twice yearly. The aim is for the Met to become a truly anti-racist and inclusive organization, according to Sir Mark. He said, "Black Londoners have been let down by the Met over many years, and while we continue to take steps in the right direction, there remains a long way to go and there's a lot more work to do. Action, not words, will rebuild the trust in our service, so we must now remain focused on delivering real change that is seen and felt by our communities and our workforce. We are changing our systems, our processes, culture, our leadership. We are better understanding and acting on disproportionality wherever it exists. We are working more closely than ever with communities we've let down to build a service that delivers for all of London. To achieve this critical change once and for all will take time, but I am determined that we will continue to strengthen our relationship with Black Londoners, whether they be members of the public or our own colleagues, and renew the principle of policing by consent." So, I guess we'll see in in a half, how that's going, because they will have 2 updates every year saying, yeah, it's working. unlikely you'll actually see any change from the first progress plan, because this kind of completely fundamental change is going to have to happen over a couple years, probably a decade, and then you can say that worked, or wow, they still hate our guts. What did we do? But there's your news on the secret banned anti-protest police and the Mets trying to improve their relationship with the people.
All right. So, on to international intrigue from the British. What do you want to call it? Good feelings initiative to
Race
worldwide
action
good
plan.
feelings initiative.
That's what it's called. The race action plan.
Yeah. Race X. There you go. Please like us. Anyway. This is from ndtv.com, and the author's Harsh. The guy's name is Harsh V. Pant and Sayantan Haldar, as I hiccup. Oh boy, here we go. All right, this is U.S. President Joe Biden hosted the Prime Ministers of India, Australia, and Japan for the 4th in-person Quad Leaders Summit in his hometown of Wilmington, Delaware last week. The summit was seen as crucial for multiple reasons. First, it was the last one to be attended by Biden, a key architect of the grouping's institutionalization. It's a long word. And the Japanese Prime Minister Fumio Kishida, who played a pivotal role in adding political heft to the forum. Second, 2024 marks the 20 years since the formation of the grouping. Third, and most importantly, the Wilmington Summit further consolidated the grouping by expanding key areas of cooperation in the Indo-Pacific. Indeed, the summit has been successful in signaling the Quad is here to stay. Maybe they'll make a nice acronym out of it or something. It says the Quad. It sounds like a sporting event, doesn't it? Anyway.
Yeah.
India, Australia, and Japan, and the United States. A lot of people. A large population in India. At a time, highly complex global crisis playing out in different parts of the world, the Quad Leaders Summit took place in the context of critical challenges and vital opportunities. With enduring wars in Europe and the Middle East, China's belligerent activities in the Indo-Pacific region, and emerging non-traditional security challenges in the region, the Quad had its task cut out. The Wilmington Declaration, the joint statement of Quad leaders, amply addresses these critical questions. The joint statement issued by the leaders of the Quad grouping in Wilmington exhibits continued continuity in responding to the war in Ukraine, reiterating the urgent need to put an end to the conflict and uphold the spirit of international law. Similarly, this year's statement expressed concerns over ballistic missile launches being conducted by North Korea and the need to prevent the proliferation of nuclear missiles and technology. Additionally, the Wilmington Declaration focused on the ongoing conflict in Gaza as well. The group shared its concern over the ongoing humanitarian crisis in Gaza, advocating for a sovereign, viable, and independent state of Palestine while remaining sensitive to the concerns of Israel. We all know the solution in Israel is just get rid of Netanyahu. It's not the total solution, but get rid of Netanyahu, and you can start talking about diplomacy, because that guy just wants to kill people.
Yeah.
That's all he gives a shit about. Oh, we killed some people today, yay! Anyway, apart from these, the statement further reiterated concerns over the worsening political and humanitarian situation in Myanmar, as well as attacks by the Houthis in the Red Sea and the Gulf of Aden. However, China remained the big-ticket question for the Quad in the Indo-Pacific context. In the China question, Quad's response to this year seems sharper than the previous years. Earlier at the Quad Foreigners Ministers meeting, the grouping called Beijing out, albeit without naming it, for disregarding international law and unilaterally acting in the East and South China Sea region. Similarly, the Quad leaders expressing their concern over increasing Similarly, the Quad leaders expressed their concern over increasing militarization in disputed pockets over the Indo-Pacific. Responding to the tensions of the region, the grouping condemned the use of coast guards and marine military vessels, which served as China's tactics for coercive and intimidating maneuvers. Quad's synergy on issues of maritime safety and security in the Indo-Pacific has also gained vital momentum at this summit. A joint Coast Guard level cooperation among the 4 Quad countries, Quad at Sea Ship Observer Mission, or let's make it into an acronym, SPOM, or sorry, SOM, SSOM. Anyway, let's do that again. A joint Coast Guard level cooperation among the 4 Quad countries, Quad at Sea Ship Observer Mission, proposed at the summit seeks to improve interoperability among the Coast Guard's services of the 4 countries. Hello, mouth, start working anytime now. Advancing cooperation in the domain of maritime safety and security. Similarly, responding to the imminent challenges posed by natural calamities and disasters in the Indo-Pacific, the grouping announced the launch of Quad Indo-Pacific Logistics Network, the QIPLN, which is meant to pursue shared aircraft capacities in a bid to improve cooperation in the domain of humanitarian assistance and disaster relief, HADR. Additionally, Quad's efforts to bolster maritime domain awareness through the Indo-Pacific Partnership for Marine Domain Awareness, the IPMDA, received a significant push, with Australia committing to involve the Pacific Islands Forum's Fishery Agency to enhance cooperation, as well as a grouping proposition a new maritime initiative for training in the Indo-Pacific, or the MAITRI, MAITRI. The summit further consolidates its regional partnership through continued cooperation with the Association of Southeast Asian Nations, or the ASEAN. We are acronym crazy this morning. The Indian Ocean Rim Association, or the IORA, and the Pacific Islands Forum, PIF.
We're just going to start speaking in the alphabet, you know?
Notably, the Quad...
XYZ.
What's that?
We're just going to start talking in the alphabet, right? So many acronyms.
I wonder why Quad isn't an acronym. You got Japan, you got Australia, and you got India. There's 2 vowels in there already, and then you can make America a vowel, right? That's 3 vowels. Maybe that's why it's not an acronym. Too many vowels. only one consonant.
You'll be going, yeah.
Only Japan.
It sound like only vowels.
The JAAI. The JAAI. You can call it that. The J. A slew of announcements made at this year's Quad Summit and the resultant Wilmington Declaration underscore the enduring promise and relevance of the grouping. While Quad continues to respond to critical geopolitical challenges of the world, specifically the Indo-Pacific, it has also demonstrated a robust, positive agenda to harness shared opportunities. Indeed, the Quad is here to stay. In pursuit of a free and open Indo-Pacific one is inclusive and resilient. So there you are, a little, backroom meetings among world leaders with large economies, trying to decide what to do about China, and of course we have India, which kind of playing both sides in the Russia-Ukraine war, right? Selling shit to both sides. India knows how to make money. Anyway, back to you.
Gotta make that cash, because it's the only thing that speaks in our society, really. Oh, you have a high GDP? I'm gonna listen to what you have to say all of a sudden.
Grab that cash with both hands and make a stash.
Yeah. Okay.
New car, caviar, 4-star daydream, think I'll buy me a football team. Anyway, back to you.
Speaking of cash, this one Dutch, I guess CEO or boss is completely changing how his companies ran so that he can provide a clean future for his children and everyone. I mean, because it says dad, so I'm assuming he's doing it for his children. I'm assuming a lot of things from this headline. So let's read the story and find out what's actually going on. This is on AP News by Jennifer McDermott and Alexander Fertula. Coming out of Alpha on the Rhine, which is a city quite close to me actually, so this is local news for me. At first, working in the oil and gas industry was great. Jordi Zonneveld recalls. Near his home in the Netherlands, there was an oil and gas company that, back in 2005, was growing and hiring. Zonneveld knew nothing about its business, which was designed and building equipment used to separate oil and gas from the salty water they are mixed in deep underground. That was a far cry from what he had studied in college, aviation. But he was happy to get a job. You know what? Me too. At just 21, Zonneveld found himself working as a project engineer with customers and managing engineering teams. It was heady, and challenging. The company, Frames Group, in the city of Alpha on the Rhine, did very well. Zonneveld was promoted every few years. Wow, that's good for him. But in the oil and gas industry, the year 2015 was a turning point for many people. And Zonneveld was one. The price of oil crashed. Major companies around the world halted or postponed large projects. Sales at the Frames Group plummeted. The same year, the Paris Climate Agreement was signed, committing countries to reducing greenhouse gas emissions, the same emissions produced by his industry. The whole world is declaring to phase out fossil fuels, Zonneveld said. It wasn't going to be immediate, but we were relying on those fossil fuels 100%. Zonneveld and his co-workers discussed all of this and decided the oil and gas industry is not where they wanted to make their careers. They were still young. I still needed to work about 30 years until my retirement, I imagine. So, just wait and see what happens. This was not an option, he said. He had become a father with 2 daughters and didn't want them to live in a world reliant on burning oil, gas, and coal, warming the planet. I don't have the illusion I can change everything myself, but I can be part of the whole transition, he said. By the time he was in top management, he considered his company's specialty in separating oil from gas and removing unwanted water and vapors. He began to see a path: green hydrogen. Hydrogen is a gas that can be burned like a fossil fuel and generate high heat, but it does not create emissions that warm the earth. In a way, a tank of hydrogen is like a battery. It can store clean energy over days, weeks, or even months. It can power trucks, planes, and boats, and also be used to make steel, ammonia, and fertilizer. But the most of the hydrogen used today is made from a fossil fuel, natural gas. But Zonneveld wanted to pull Frames Group towards the future by making green hydrogen, that is, hydrogen obtained by splitting water into its elements using only clean electricity. His employees' skills would be transferable, so nobody would have to be laid off or fired to this change. The interesting thing with hydrogen is that if you have a lot of knowledge about gases like natural gas, then designing a system for hydrogen is just another gas, Zonneveld said. It's a bit more complex than that, especially if you ask our engineers, but I mean on a high level, it's just another gas. I think hydrogen is a little bit more explosive, but some of the longtime oil and gas colleagues didn't like this new direction. After all, they had oil and gas in their pocket. No, I'm just kidding, that's not what it said. They were being bribed. After all, the world was not moving away from fossil fuels anytime soon. It was actually doing that. They just didn't see that they were doing that. Zonneveld conceded it might take decades, but the Frames Group could lead the way. He and a small team pressed forward and were able to increase clean hydrogen to 10% of the company's business over the next 5 years. Around the same time, in New York, the clean energy company Plug Power, focused on hydrogen and fuel cells, was building out its hydrogen business, so they weren't the only ones. 2 companies shared a desire to help customers decarbonize their operations, and the belief that hydrogen will play a big role in clean energy transition. Plug Power decided to acquire Frames Group, a merger that happened in 2021. There were a few oil and gas companies where you had leadership that had such a vision. Plug Power, this is probably an American. There were a few oil and gas companies where you had the leadership that had such a vision, Plug Power CEO Andy Marsh said in an interview. So it was a perfect match between Plug's vision and Jordy's personal vision of what Frames Group could become. Now Plug Power has a goal of producing over 1,000 tons of green hydrogen globally this decade. There have been challenges. Plug Power stock has been volatile, has yet to turn a profit, and that is not unusual in a new industry. Yeah, nobody wants to buy your stock, so they don't even know anything about you. That's kind of how the stock market works. I mean, yeah, and unfortunately our society is run on the stock market in a lot of cases. So, on the positive side, Plug Power has found some big customers, including Amazon. Plug Power technology now runs forklifts in 80 Amazon warehouses. Amazon is now making its own clean hydrogen on site in Aurora, Colorado, using a machine called an electrolyzer made by Plug Power. I think we covered this a few months back. We're covering this new electrolyzer in Colorado. The Biden administration is doling out billions of tax dollar credits to companies that make this kind of clean hydrogen. Plug Power is in line for some of that money. Department of Energy is helping finance the construction of up to 6 of the company's hydrogen production plants. Plug Power opened its first clean hydrogen plant in January in Georgia, and also owns factories for making electrolyzers and fuel cells in Rochester and Slingerlands, New York. Frame's Netherlands office is finishing out its last oil and gas projects. Marsh said he put Zonneveld in charge there because he's a dreamer. Zonneveld, 39, now has 3 daughters. Wow. Trio, and it's talked about climate change. You can relate to that. 3 daughters, good luck. He has talked about climate change and his work with his eldest. He began driving a hydrogen car in 2020. When the two are in the car together, he explains how this kind of car is different from the others on the road and better for the environment. The topic is a bit difficult at our age at 11. I doubt it. Dutch children are really smart, and 11, I knew this stuff when I was 8, so I don't think it's that difficult of a topic. And she's not always happy when they have to drive farther to reach a hydrogen refueling station, but she understands the world needs to move away from fossil fuels. His 2 other daughters, 9 and 1, he doesn't talk as much with them about yet, but he said he's proud of becoming part of the solution. We made a change, he said, and I'm sure when they get a bit older, they will also be proud of me. So there you go. That's from AP about a dad who said, you know what? I have the power to change this company from the inside, and I'm gonna freaking do it. So don't just talk about changing it from the inside, actually do it. Convince those stupid CEOs who want to make cash out now on their oil and gas that, hey, you can cash out on something else if you just give it a little time and a little elbow grease. Because, you know, it's easy to go into a pre-established industry that's already making billions, but it's harder to go into an industry you have to make yourself. There's my story coming out of the Netherlands, and I guess also the United States, with Plug Power. On to yours.
Okay. Well, we're going to go back to India, or at least a little bit south of India, in Sri Lanka, a little tiny island off the coast of India. Is an independent nation, and they have a new leader. This is from Reuters.com, and some hard to pronounce names, so here we're going to go. Udita Jayasinghe and Sudipto Ganguly. That's my only try at those names. This is from Colombo, Sri Lanka. Sri Lanka's leftist leader Anura Kumara Dissanayake, I'm going to say it a bunch of times, so I got to get used to it, took office as president on Monday, promising change in the island nation led by powerful political families, which is emerging from the worst economic crisis in more than 7 decades. Millions of Sri Lankans had voted for the opposition parliamentarian, putting faith in his graft-fighting pledge and vow to bolster a fragile economic recovery. I pledge to demonstrate dedication to protecting and upholding democracy, the Sanayake, 55, said in inauguration remarks at the president's office, saying he was taking office at a challenging time in the Indian Ocean nation. Our politics needs to be cleaner, and the people have called for a different political cultures, and I am ready to commit to that change. The Sanayake ran as a candidate for the National People's Power, or the NPP alliance, which includes his Janatha Vimukti Peramuna, or the JVP party, which is what we're going to call it from now on. that traditionally championed the Marxist economic policies centered on protectionism and state intervention. In recent years, the party has taken more centrist positions. Outside, dozens of supporters held up posters carrying his image, with some waving the Sri Lankan flag and chanting AKD, the initials of the new president, who displaces the incumbent veteran politician Ranil Wickremesinghe. Or Singhe. "I'm very happy," said one of them, beautician Iroma Nelanthi Larange, adding that Disanyake inspired supporters with hope. "We worked very hard for this victory. For the first time, the poor people have someone who stands for them. Tasks he now faces include setting up a new cabinet and wooing Parliament." Woo, Parliament! He's going to be wooing Parliament, where his party had just 3 of 225 seats. Wow. To pass a budget under the terms of a $2.9 billion bailout for an international monetary fund. Whoa. This was Sri Lanka's first election since its economy buckled in 2022 under severe foreign exchange shortage, leaving it unable to pay for imports of essentials including fuel, medicine, and cooking gas. Protest forced then-President Gotabaya Rajapaksa to flee and later resign. Before Monday swearing in, Prime Minister Dinesh Gunawardena resigned to make way for the new Prime Minister and Cabinet. Gunawardena, 75, took over as Prime Minister in 2022 in July after Rajapaksa fled and resigned amid protests unleashed by the crisis, which also triggered a debt default. Disanyake was declared a new president late Sunday, displacing Wickremesinghe, who had been appointed by Parliament to serve out Rajapaksa's remaining term. Popularly known as AKD, Disanyake polled 1.2 million votes more than the nearest rival and main opposition leader Sajith Premadasa, with Wickremesinghe finishing third. I've now said it 5 times wrong. Sri Lanka's sovereign dollar bonds shed 288 to 3.28 cents on the dollar in early trade on Monday to bid between 49.14 and 49.77 cents. So a Sri Lanka dollar is worth about 50 cents. Investors worry that Marxist-leaning Disanyake desire to revisit the terms of the country's IMF bailout could delay future disbursements, and that he could seek to renegotiate a debt deal with bondholders finalized last week. Sri Lanka's close neighbors, India, Pakistan, and the Maldives, also congratulated Disanyake for his win, along with China, the largest bilateral creditor. China hopes that Sri Lanka will maintain its national stability and development and is willing to play a constructive role in the smooth economic and social development, a Chinese foreign minister spokesperson said on Monday. The spokesperson declined to give details of the prospect of Sri Lanka wanting to revisit debt agreements it struck with Beijing, but said China hoped to deepen its high-quality development in the construction of a Belt and Road together. There's your story. Sri Lanka has new leadership, as they say, a Marxist, which basically means, well, we're going to use the government to solve problems. We're not going to let the free market decide, hey, let's sit here and suffer and hope a bank bails us out. So, hopefully Sri Lanka taking charge of its own problems. When you're an island nation, you can maybe a little bit easier to consolidate power.
Yeah.
Because you're all on a little island, right? Where are you going? Big old India's right there, you know.
Big old
Back
India.
to you.
To be fair, India also wasn't always one country. It used to be multiple nations that got combined under that one guy. I can't remember his name.
Oh.
So.
Don't
Raja
forget, they're still having disputes with Pakistan all the time.
That guy, I think it was Raja Hapit or something. He's the one who united the Indian municipalities together, I guess. Do I have a good segue from this? No! Let's talk about the Holocaust, guys!
No, you don't need one.
It's Mucking Fonday. Let's talk about the Holocaust. But not explicitly the terrible travesties. Well, maybe we are talking about the terrible travesties that happened because we are talking about stolpersteine. And there's some Dutch controversy in the Netherlands about who should and who shouldn't get their stumbling stone. So, this is from Euronews Culture by David Morquand. What is a stolpersteine, or stolpersteine for plural? It's a 10 centimeter cube made out of concrete, bearing a brass plate inscribed with the name and life dates of victims of Nazi extermination during the Holocaust. The name literally means stumbling stone. They can be found on the streets of more than 1,200 cities in Europe and are everywhere on Berlin's cobblestone streets, becoming the world's largest decentralized monument to the Holocaust. Stolpersteine commemorate not only Jewish victims but also Romani people, homosexuals, black people, the physically or mentally disabled, and members of the anti-Nazi resistance. They are placed outside the victim's last known place of residence. The project to commemorate the victims of the Holocaust was initiated by German artist Gunther Demnig in Cologne in 1992. He installed the first Berlin stolpersteine 4 years later. So it took him 4 years to be allowed to take a block out of the street so he could put his block in the street. So why are these blocks in the news in the Netherlands? Well, it's marking its 80 years of liberation. A row about who is entitled to get their stumbling stone has started, and centers around placing stolpersteine for 45 Dutch political prisoners, including activists and communists, who were experimentally gassed by the Nazis at the Bernburg Psychiatric Clinic in Germany in 1942. There has been bureaucratic and financial resistance, as the Struckelsteine Haarlem Foundation only has a municipal mandate to place stolpersteine for 733 Jewish, Roma, and Sinti Holocaust victims. It has been deemed that some victims do not fall in certain categories and that they should have a different mark of remembrance. That's right. Dutch political prisoners, so basically anti-Nazis from the Netherlands, who were experimentally gassed by the Nazis, do not qualify for their special stolpersteine because they weren't Jewish, Roma, or Sinti Holocaust victims, according to Haarlem. Elsewhere, Denmark has recently unveiled several stolpersteine to commemorate the 80th anniversary of the 19th September of mass deportation of Danish policemen to concentration camps by Nazi soldiers. The stumbling stones highlight their courage in refusing to cooperate with German occupiers. But why does this even matter? Stolpersteine focus on individual tragedies, but represent an act of remembrance that also emphasizes the scale and culpability of nations in the Holocaust. This recent controversy highlights the collusion of the Dutch state in turning over a list of undesirables to the Nazi authorities and shines negative light on the practices of the Dutch security services. This is something that many European nations have had to wrestle with. That's right, a lot of you guys helped the Nazis, a lot of you. So, as duty to face up to past sins can be a source of shame. It also highlights historical gatekeeping, and the political victims should have the same respect as the Jewish ones, something not everyone agrees with. I think being subjugated and then standing up to people, for the people being subjugated and being punished with them, I think that's the same punishment there. Hey, you're standing up for that Jewish person, you also deserve to die. Why have stolpersteine been so controversial? 20 years ago, the City Council of Munich rejected the installation of stolpersteine on public property, following objections raised by Munich's Jewish community. Charlotte Knobloch, the head of the Jewish community in Munich and Bavaria, opposed the project. Knobloch, who survived the Holocaust, has stated that the placement of stolpersteine on the street is unacceptable and as it is undignified. But because people were walking on them all day long? I wish she explained why she believes that. The Polish Institute of National Remembrance, IPN, also echoed similar reservations, noting that the location of memorials on sidewalks is not respectful. The decision to reject stolpersteine in Munich was upheld in 2015. Alternative remembrance projects, including biographic plaques on columns, were favored instead. Yeah, I think it's still a stolpersteine if it's still a square on a column, right? Probably not. It's like, no, it has to explicitly be walked on to be a stolpersteine. Elsewhere, local resistance in Paris and Belgian city of Antwerp meant that the ground plaques were unable to be installed. The city of Paris head of remembrance stated that stolpersteine are not suitable for Parisian remembrance work, and that they send out an image that is unstable for France, where 75% of Jews have survived. Many denounce the desire to bury the past and shirk responsibilities. Is it disrespectful? Well, not every city supports this type of commemoration. Stolpersteine are a subtle but powerful and metaphorical rich act of remembrance. There also is an argument to be made that if a passerby wants to read the inscriptions, they bow before the victim. And, as Gunther Demning is fond of saying, quoting the Talmud, a person is only forgotten when his or her name is forgotten. The installment of the stolpersteine is a lengthy process, often lasting up to 10 years. Each stone has a sponsor who is responsible for writing a biography on the stolpersteine berlin.de. Sponsors often have to pay 120 euros per stone. Hey, that's not too bad. I thought it was going to be more. The inscription on each stone begins, "Here lived," followed by the victim's name, the date of birth, and how they were murdered, usually with the name of the concentration camp where they were deported. So some people believe putting stones on the sidewalk is just walking over the graves of the dead, but some people believe that it's just a nice way to honor people at their last residence, right? You put, the last place, Tom was ever seen was here, so we're going to put a little stolpersteine and say, he lived here once in 1940, and then he died over there when he was forcibly evicted from his own house and everyone stole his possessions. So, yeah, it's always been a tough topic in Europe, especially from people like the Netherlands or France, who were almost completely and totally conquered by the Germans, and in some case helped the Germans conquer them.
And
of course, the famous story...
neighbors turned on neighbors.
Exactly. The famous story is that, the Dutch had people who, burned down an entire police building to hide the papers of people and where they live. It's like, yeah, you have one example of people doing something as some sort of resistance. And there's plenty of others, right? But that's the one people always say. We're not all evil. And that's true, not everyone is evil. But why is there drama for this? I guess they just want to be able to commemorate the Dutch people who weren't, right? Those 45 Dutch political prisoners who stood up for their fellow neighbors and said, no, you shall not take them, and they got gassed anyways. And for some reason, people are like, no,
of course,
you can only be Jewish, Roma, or Sinti,
and
have a stone. Sorry?
The old bromide. The old bromide. First they came for the Jews, but I wasn't a Jew, so I kept quiet. Then they came for the homosexuals, but I wasn't homosexual, so I kept quiet. And pretty soon it gets down to, then they came for me, and there was no one to say anything for me.
Yeah.
Yep.
The famous poem.
People keep quiet because they think it's just going to go away, because they're lazy, intellectually lazy, and they don't realize what's actually going on in the world. You can't blame them because they're kept ignorant by their governments.
Yeah, the sad truth about humanity is that we like to be comfortable, just humans in general. And if it will make me comfortable, I'll do it. That's why there's so many easy solutions to problems in the world, because it's more comfortable to, continue using gas and oil instead of switching to hydrogen, for example, right? That's not comfortable. I don't know what I'm doing with hydrogen energy, but I know what I'm doing with gas and oil, so I'm just going to continue doing that. Sad.
We are not good receptors for bad news.
Yeah.
And I think the human psyche can maybe take 3 instances of bad news in one day, and then you just lose it. And that's about it,
just
right?
stop apathy.
Not necessarily go crazy and grab, you just stop thinking about anything but your own survival. Anyway, back to you.
No, that's it. It's your time. It's your turn.
All right. So there's your irrational hatred of people who are just trying to remember the Holocaust. I guess that's what they can call it. And we're going to go on to this day in history. Oh, by the way, I sent you a video.
I've already downloaded it and slotted it in.
Right on. Started at 10 seconds. So we're at 10 seconds, so we're not off sync here. All right, then. This day in history. It is September 23rd, 1779. During the American Revolution, in the midst of a naval engagement between the warships Bonhomme, Richard, and Serapis off the east coast of England, American John Paul Jones, not the guy from Led Zeppelin, John Paul Jones, not the bass player from Led Zeppelin, but the captain, the American commander John Paul Jones, answered a call to surrender from the English counterpart with the famous quotation, "I have not yet begun to fight." So that's where that came from. John Paul Jones said that today in 1779. In 1806, Lewis and Clark arrived in St. Louis, Missouri at the end of their daring expedition to the Pacific Northwest. So they went all the way to the Pacific Northwest and came all the way back. And that's where their journey ended today in 1806. 1862, Otto von Bismarck was appointed a Prime Minister of Prussia by William I. In 1868, a small group of Puerto Rican radicals committed to the independence attempting an uprising, El Grito de Lares. The revolt was crushed by the Spanish. They got, we're going to crush your revolt. Don't you do that. In 1869, Mary Mallon, who later became known as Typhoid Mary, accused of causing multiple outbreaks of typhoid fever while working as a domestic servant in the United States, was born in Ireland. Yeah, Typhoid Mary.
Typhoid Mary. God,
she carried typhoid.
My
and had
great
no effect on
grandmother was Typhoid Mary.
her. She carried the typhus, what do you call it? The typhus virus, but she could not die for it. She spread it, and it was very deadly. And she was a cook of all things, so she was spreading it to people's children. She was cooking for.
This
And she
food
kept
is so
getting
good.
jobs
What's
that
the
they told her
special
not to get a
ingredient?
job.
Typhus, actually. That's really a lot of robust flavor to the.
Right.
The
She ended up totally quarantined by herself on an island in New York Harbor. That's what happened to her. In 1932, a royal decree at the dual kingdom of Hejaz and Najd, along with its dependencies, was unified under the name of the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, and oil prices have not been the same since. 1939, Sigmund Freud, the founder of modern psychoanalysis, died in London. So Sigmund Freud died in this day, 1939. 1949 is the birthday of Bruce Springsteen, American singer and songwriter, band leader. Bruce Springsteen became the archetypal, I guess is how you say that, rock performer of the 1970s and 1980s. Was born. I don't know. He became an archetypal rock performer. I think it's a weird descriptions. Bruce Springsteen is more of a slow it down, sedate guy when he is in an E Street band. Actually, he's more of a Neil Young.
He makes a lot of
type.
ballads. Yeah, I would agree with that.
Hard rock. He can do the ballads.
Yeah.
1969, the American film Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid at its world premiere. It became a Western classic, especially noticed for its pairing of Paul Newman and Robert Redford as the titular outlaws. A titular outlaw. 1980, my buddy Bob back here, Bob Marley, who is especially known for popularizing reggae, performed his last concert on this day, a sold-out show in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. He died of cancer in the following year. Bob Marley died of cancer for a stupid reason because he had a tumor on his foot. He refused to get his foot removed because he liked playing soccer. But I guess nobody explained to him, hey, you can't play soccer when you're dead either. But he didn't care, so he died of cancer. Totally preventable death.
That isn't that the truth. You
1987,
can't play soccer when you're dead.
I'm sorry, what?
Isn't that the truth? You can't play soccer when you're dead.
That's right. You can play soccer with one foot. You can. You just go get a prosthetic foot. Hey. But his love for soccer killed him. That's ridiculous, right? Apparently now, Bob Marley and the Wailers and a lot of, like the Clash did this too, they would play soccer until they dropped. Like, they like playing soccer more than they like playing music. Yeah, 1987, American choreographer and director Bob Fosse revolutionized musicals with his distinct style of dance, including the frequent use of props, signature moves, and provocative steps. Died in Washington, D.C. So he died in 1987 at the age of 60. 2006, American folk musician Etta Baker died at the age of 93. She influenced the folk music revival of the 1950s and 60s with her blend of Piedmont blues and bluegrass. Piedmont blues and bluegrass. I don't know what Piedmont blues means. I'd have to look that one up, but maybe sometime later. Our featured event, Neptune, was discovered. That's right. Neptune in 1846. On this day, astronomer Johann Gottfried Galle became the first person ever to observe the planet Neptune, the existence of which had been mathematically predicted by Urbain Jean-Joseph Le Verrier and John Couch Adams. John Couch Adams? I wonder if he's related to the original John Adams, huh? We can look that up. That's an interesting name. John Couch Adams? Don't tell J.D. Vance about this guy. Anyway. No, he's a British guy. He wasn't even a descendant of the old presidential people. Our featured biography, John Coltrane. John Coltrane's birthday is today. Yeah, Mr. Saxophone, born September 23, 1926 in Hamlet, North Carolina. He died at the age of 40. Man, these guys don't live very long. July 17th, 1967 in Huntington, New York. Other famous birthdays today. Mickey Rooney, born in 1920. We covered John Coltrane. Ray Charles. How come we didn't get a Ray Charles birthday? He's more famous than any of these guys. Ray Charles' birthday today, 1930. Julio Iglesias, Spanish singer and songwriter, born in 1943. And, of course, we covered Bruce Springsteen today. National days today. It is National Restless Legs Awareness Day. Come on, leg, calm down, leg. We'll go soon. National Restless Leg. If you have restless leg syndrome, it's your day. Enjoy it, I guess. And celebrate Bisexuality Day. Yeah, bisexuality. Just go ahead and celebrate it. Yay, bisexuality!
Woo! You can
energize.
Be attracted to everybody.
I don't exclude anyone. I'm totally inclusive. I'm bisexual. Okay, I got some audio playing on my headsets. But it's Energize Day, which is the day after the autumnal equinox, which is yesterday. By the way, it's autumn now, in case somebody noticed. Summer's over. That sucks, but at least the bugs are going away. Energize Day is the day after the autumnal equinox, offers the opportunity to relax and rejuvenate. This day is for you. Since the fall has officially arrived, it's time to shift gears. The fast pace of summer activities passed by now. Languid autumn days provide tranquil sunsets and peaceful moments. These are the times to focus on your personal well-being. Do things you enjoy that make you feel good about yourself. Less stress and worry fade away for the day. I think that goes along with Bisexuality Day. Huh? Anyway, it's actual National Great American Pot Pie Day. I don't know what's so great about them. Maybe it's just this little tiny pot pie, which most people get, which the best pot pies I've had, and I'm not saying this because I'm trying to be like virtue signaling. Oh, I've been the world traveler. Was in Scotland. They even got a better name for it than pot pies. They call them something else. They're really good.
It was the veal one, right? What's that? Not the veal one. Sorry.
I had 3 of them, man. I can't. They're all good.
Didn't we have like a
delicious. I had
venison one?
Blue cheese. Say what?
Didn't we have a venison one?
No, I didn't have a venison one. I know that for sure.
Oh, okay. We definitely had venison though. I remember. We had venison there. That was really good too.
It's also no. Maybe you had a venison one. I didn't even see one. I didn't even see it. I don't even remember even that being a thing. National Checkers Day and Dogs in Politics Day. Which Checkers? If nobody remembers this, is Checkers was the dog that I think Nikita Khrushchev or one of the Russian leaders gave to Richard Nixon when he was a senator, not even vice president yet, but. When he was running for vice president, 1952 with Eisenhower. Eisenhower made Nixon his vice president. All of a sudden they go, oh, Nixon's been taking gifts and he's got to give them back. So Nixon's like, I gave back all my gifts, but I'm not giving back my dog Checkers. That's a family pet. My children would have me horsewhipped. I gave back checkers. Anyway, the famous checkers speech turned Nixon from an obscure senator who just got nominated for his anti-communism stance by Eisenhower, turned Nixon into a political person who could manipulate the press, and it never stopped. Nixon was manipulating the whole time. So the checkers speech was the start of it all for Nixon, if you talk to historians. The start of his political acumen, however you want to call it. National Family Day. It was the fourth Monday of September. National Family Day. So if you have a family, and most people do, I would be more inclined to recognize the people that don't have families. Because if you have a family, you don't even realize how damn lucky you are.
Yeah.
National Teal Talk Day. Another day I gotta look up. National Day calendar just flat made this shit up. So National Teal Talk Day. It says, let's talk. September 23rd is Teal Talk Day, and each year over 249,000 women are diagnosed with ovarian cancer worldwide. So gather with your friends, wear teal for a day out together and talk. Does anybody know what the color teal even is? Do you know?
Yes.
I only know what teal is because it's the same color that Jacksonville Jaguars wear. That's the only reason I even know what teal is.
You gotta learn your color somehow.
Other than that, it was a bird. Teal is a... So, teal is the one to remember ovarian cancer. And they invent the National Day calendar invented this crap in 2017. They fess up to inventing it. We just decided, all on our own. It is National Snack Stick Day, so get that Slim Jim out and go have fun with your snack stick. Or your, as they call them here, the Bigfoots or the Sasquatch, the big giant ones. They're look like. Never mind. Anyway, those are your days for today, September 23rd, 2024, on Before Great American Pot Pie.
All right, hopefully my camera lasts for this outro. This has been Allison here from the Netherlands. Okay. I'm going to go, I guess, eat a beef stick and make some pot pie here on Mucking Fonday. I hope you have a good Monday, and if you don't have a good Monday, have a decent one. We will see you tomorrow for
Make
Good
a beef
Tuesday.
Stick pot pie.
Yeah, exactly. We're gonna meet you for tomorrow for Good Tuesday. So if you aren't subscribed and have that notification bell on, go ahead and do that now, so you'll know when we go live for Good Tuesday, where we're gonna cover all the good news we can find. Don't forget to also like this video and comment down below. What is your favorite pot pie? You're like, what ingredients? I like pork pot pies. I think pork's probably my favorite meat because I'm a cannibal. And
me likey.
And we will see you tomorrow. Here is our mic drop moment.
The real mic drop.
The real mic drop.
One other
moment.
thing I probably should tell you, because if I don't, they'll probably be saying this about me too. We did get something, a gift.
There you go.
The election. A man down in Texas heard Pat on the radio mention the fact that our two youngsters would like to have a dog.
Oh, no.
And believe it or not, the day before we left on this campaign trip, we got a message from the Union Station in Baltimore saying they had a package for us. We went down to get it. You know what it was? It was a little Cocker Spaniel dog in a crate that he'd sent all the way
from Russia.
Black and white, spotted.
A Russian spy
and
dog.
Our little girl, Tricia, the 6-year-old, named it Check. And you know, the kids, like all kids, love the dog. And I just want to say this right now, that regardless of what they say about it, we're going to keep it. But just let me say this last word. Regardless of what happens, I'm going to continue this fight. I'm going to campaign up and down in America until we drive the crooks and the communists and those that defend them out of Washington. And remember, folks, Eisenhower is a great man, believe me.
Be sure to hit the like, subscribe, and notify buttons. And follow our other channels, Toxic Alley, History of Gravy, and Scratchy Old Records.